David is anointed by Samuel. And we're told in our first reading today that from that day forward, the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him. For those to be baptized, confirmed, for all of us who have been baptized, that is the Lord's will. That the Spirit be with us. And it is a spirit of enlightenment. We are to walk as children of the light. As St. Paul reminds us in today's second reading. He tells us that we should put the things of darkness behind us, expose them for what they are. This is a season of illumination. That's what the sacraments lead us to. And that's what our Lenten journey is, to lead us into that spirit of light. We are to have spiritual sight, that we may see the things of this earth in terms of the things of heaven. That we might understand time in reference to eternity. And to understand ourselves in conjunction with our destiny. That we are heirs to the kingdom. That it is God's will that we be with him forever. This is what our readings address today. The man born blind in today's gospel passage is a hero in the early church. No less than 7 times his image and the story is portrayed in the catacombs, the place where the earliest Christians celebrated the Eucharist. Tertullian, Justin Martyr, St. Augustine hold him up as a model for our catechumens and for all of us on our pilgrimage, that we are to be a people of light, that we shouldn't be distracted by the things that can take us away from the Lord. Baptism leads us into that second stage of the spiritual life. Preparing for baptism is a time of purgation. We are to put our sins behind us. And as a community, that's what we do during this Lenten season. If we've fallen into darkness, no doubt people do many things during this Lenten season. And many people adopt and choose to do positive things. But first and foremost, in this season, we are to put our old selves behind us. We are to turn away from sin. Because without turning away from sin, we can't walk in the light, in the truth. Today's gospel passage encompasses the whole of chapter 9 of Luke's gospel. And yet I'd like to begin with chapter 8. Before the Pharisees begin to argue with Jesus, he proclaims, "I am the light of the world. And everyone, no matter what our past, no matter where we're from, no matter what's gone before, everyone who follows me," he says to us, "will no longer walk in darkness, but they will have the light of life." This is the illuminative way to know God's will. Of course, it all begins with a encounter with Jesus Christ, who sets us free from the distractions of this world, from those things that can separate us from him. You see that in today's gospel passage, a very personal encounter with a man born blind, a precursor to the sacraments as Jesus takes ordinary things and anoints his eyes, sends him to the pool, Siloam, just as Elisha had sent Naaman the Syrian into the Jordan River, a form of baptism that leads to enlightenment. And we see that enlightenment taking place in this model of discipleship. He begins by calling him the man. The man opened my eyes. Maybe that's how we see the Lord. He's a man. And yet, so much more. As his eyes open, as he defends what happened to him. He declares that he is a prophet, but not just a prophet, sent by God. And then he proclaims he is Lord. And he worships him, his eyes fully open. He has to defend his faith, his experience. So many times we've experienced miracles in our lives, and yet when times get difficult, we begin to forget what the Lord has done for us. Even when his own parents all but abandoned him. Oh, sure, they testified that he was born blind, but anything else that happened to him, ask him. They were afraid. He stood alone and proclaimed what Christ had done for him. This is a season for us through purgation to enter into the illuminative way, to have our eyes opened wide so that we will not become distracted by the things of this life. And so first and foremost, it is a time for us to die to our old selves, to embrace the cross and follow after him. We who have been baptized, have been anointed. You soon at the Easter Vigil will be anointed. And it is God's will for the rest of our lives to fill us with his spirit of illumination.